Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I am your host, Bobby Ewing, and I swear I was just in the shower that whole time. I don't know what you guys are thinking about. All right, everybody. We haven't really caught up on the news in a little while. I've had a lot of guests, a lot of topics, but there has been a ton of news, at least in the last few days, and I thought, let's take a moment, we'll cover them, and then we'll get into some stuff about what if. Not going to do a what if primer, but going to look at someone's specific character that looks like they're going to be very, very important going forward. But got to go with the news. And the first bit of news that came out today, Netflix dropped a new teaser for season 4 of Cobra Kai, which will include the return of the All Valley Karate Tournament. And we see that the new season will drop in December. So not that long to go to get the 4th season. Now the series, which is set 34 years after the Karate Kid film, focuses on Johnny Lawrence and Danny LaRusso, both now adults, and running their 2 different dojos. Johnny's running Cobra Kai, Danny's running Miyagi-Do Karate. Now the series debuted first on YouTube for the first 2 seasons, and then Netflix got in there and outbid everybody to pick up season 3 and pretty quickly established that there was going to be a season 4. So we're going to get season 4 soon. Now, the new season is going to bring back a villain from the Karate Kid Part 3, a character named Terry Silver. So, and yes, they're bringing back the actual actor as well. So they've done a really good job of bringing back most of the actors from the original series. So this December, Terry Silver returns, and it looks like Johnny and Danny are going to have to team up their dojos to take on Terry Silver. All right, in other news, back in December of last year, former President Barack Obama released a list of his favorite movies and TV shows of 2020, and on that list, surprise, surprise, was the Amazon Prime series The Boys. Didn't really see that coming. Now, the Carl Urban-led series based on the Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson comic has been extremely popular, and season 3 is in production. Well, now that today is Obama's birthday, The Boys' Twitter account says that for the former Commander-in-Chief's birthday, they're going to DM him the details of season 3. Now, I'm pretty safe in betting that if you're going to trust secrets to your TV show to anybody, the guy that used to run the nation's secrets, used to know all the secrets, that's a good guy to trust. So, but if you're buddies with Obama, you take him a beer for his birthday, maybe 2, 3, 6, you might get to find out exactly what they're going to do with Herogasm and stuff like that. So, all right. In another bit of news, we're going to fly through some news here. Though there's no actual director attached or release date, Ryan Reynolds believes that Deadpool 3 will likely go into production next year. Now, the actor is currently working with Lizzie Molyneux-Loughlin and Wendy Molyneux, and it's been on the script, and it's been confirmed that the character is going to join the MCU in some form. But when asked by Collider for the percent chance that things would start production next year, and I'm not sure why they're asking for a percentage, that just seems like a weird thing to me. Because it's, do you think it's going to start next year? Yes, no. What percentage chance? But Ryan Reynolds said, I'd say it's 50-50 maybe. We're really developing it. We're really actively developing it and getting it into pretty good shape. What the hell month is it? August? Oh, next year. Probably pretty damn good. I'd say 70%. Yeah. So a 70% chance that Deadpool 3 is going to go into production next year. Now, will that be part of Phase 4? Phase 5? Does it exist outside of the phases? How is Kevin Feige going to deal with that? That's all up in the air. We're going to have to wait and see how that works out. But I think when they look at the numbers for Deadpool, the box office numbers, they're probably just going to go, yeah, Ryan, go do you. You be you. And you want to borrow a character? Sure. What the hell? Who do you want? Why wouldn't you? The two films so far have made just a boat ton of money. And you leave it R-rated. You just let him do what he wants and keep going till it breaks. Yeah. Kevin Feige knows not to mess with a good thing. That's exactly it. So, all right. Now, moving on to another thing. The Hollywood Reporter and I cannot believe this story for a couple reasons. The Hollywood Reporter has revealed that the South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone have signed a deal with MTV for 14 South Park movies to be made exclusively for Paramount Plus. Now, what does MTV have to do with South Park? I'm not exactly sure, but they're going to be popping up on Paramount Plus. I mean, didn't MTV used to stand for music television once? Just saying. As part of the deal, there will be 2 films a year starting now. Starting in 2021. Did we already get one that I don't know about? Are we going to get 2 South Park films before December? And they're going to get 2 every year until 2027. Is there really that many more jokes to tell with the South Park kids? And the deal also includes series renewals for South Park until season 30. I don't even know what season they're on, but they're good through for season 30. Now, this series has been on a hiatus because of COVID, but they did do 2 specials while they were shut down. So I'm not sure how that works, but they did the pandemic special and then the vaccination special. So Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they found their niche and they have been riding it like crazy. I guess you could say that about Matt Groening and The Simpsons, and also their production speed for cartoons is lightning fast. Yeah, absolutely. They just turn these things around. But then again, the animation is not really that in-depth of animation. I got to tell you this story real quick. The first time I ever heard of South Park wasn't as South Park. It wasn't a TV show. I'm an LA native. And we had, I guess they're not around anymore, but we had a set of DJs out here named Kevin and Bean, and they would do a Christmas special every year. And one of the things they had before South Park ever debuted on their Christmas album, they had Mr. Garrison's 2nd grade class, I think it is, for 3rd grade class, performing "Oh Holy Night." And and you listen to it not knowing what South Park is, and you hear this teacher come on and go, "All right, we're going to sing "Oh Holy Night." Hopefully Cartman's learned his lines this time." And he hands Kyle a cattle prod and tells him, if Kyle forgets his lines, just hit him with this. And Kyle is like, okay. And then Cartman comes out and he's like, "Oh, holy night, the stars are," and he's just messing up the lines. And Kyle just keeps hitting him with the cattle prod. And then he gets to a part where he hits him for so long with the cattle prod that his voice changes, and suddenly he's an opera singer. The stars be bright. And you just get this part of just beautiful singing, and everybody's going, "Oh my God, Cartman, wow, yeah." And then he clears his throat and he goes back to the night, and that was my introduction to South Park. Was them singing "Oh Holy Night." So I don't know if anybody else has that experience, or if South Park, you watched it first, if you've ever heard that routine. But it's an interesting way to be introduced to these characters. It really is. Okay, let's go on here. We have, what else happened today? Marvel released a new featurette for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which featured Simu Liu, Aquafina, and Menger Zhang. Menger? There's an apostrophe in the name, and I never know what to do with those. You know, I mean, I couldn't do that with the Klingons either. It's kind of tough, or Star Wars, but yeah, Mengir Zhang, and they're all talking about their characters and they're showing quick clips. Also, the official Twitter account for the film released a series of 6 character posters that included Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, his friend Katie as Aquafina, who we now see her carrying around a lot with a bow, and I'm starting to wonder if she's a plant, like if somebody put them with Shang-Chi to protect him or something. It just seems kind of weird that she's now running around in gear with a bow in some of the scenes. His sister Xiling, again, Monger Zhang. His father Wen Wu, played by Tony Leung, also known as the Mandarin. And we get Michelle Yeoh as Jiang Nan. And then we get the Ten Rings warrior Death Dealer, who we still don't know who's playing that character. And I got to tell you, every time I see the character, I get the feeling that it's a female, which made me think that Taskmaster wasn't going to be a female in Black Widow, because why would you do the same trick twice? But I don't know. We don't know who Death Dealer is. It seems weird they haven't told us yet. So the fact that they're keeping a secret means it has to be something twisty to the plot. And there really aren't that many characters that it could be. And to me, I made me think it was Michelle Yeoh. That, she was trying to train him in another way or something. But we shall see. But an interesting thing is in the featurette, they're asking questions and like, well, which character would be most likely to order a coffee with over 5 words at a Starbucks, and which character? And one of them says, which character is most likely to save the world? And Simu Liu says, well, all of them. And he refers to Shang-Chi, Katie, and Xiling as a super team. So that's kind of interesting because it looks like they're going against each other. And they, might be sibling rivalry, trying to get a dad's affection. But if they end up working together, that could be really interesting too. So we'll have to see how that all works out. All right. Moving on to another story. Telling you, lots of news. Big news today. Suicide Squad, and it's supposed to be coming out tomorrow, but if you have HBO Max, it's available now. I didn't want to say that up front because you may go, to hell with this Dan Wickline guy, I'm going to go watch Suicide Squad. And trust me, if I didn't have the show to do right now, I'd probably be watching Suicide Squad. So I'm probably going to catch it right after the show. But with the Suicide Squad coming out tonight, tomorrow, it puts James Gunn in kind of a very special place. He's one of the few, I think he may be the only director to work for both Marvel and DC. Patty Jenkins was going to be, but she got fired off of Thor 2. So, and this may actually continue for some time. It seemed like it was like, well, you're going to be either in Marvel side or DC side. Well, it doesn't seem to be the case for James Gunn, who just wrapped up the TV series spinoff of Suicide Squad based on the Peacemaker, John Cena's character, who I am constantly seeing John Cena dressed as the Peacemaker going everywhere. It's a little weird, but they're doing the Peacemaker series for HBO Max, and now Gunn has moved on to work with Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, and also he's supposed to be doing the Guardians Christmas special, which will air on Disney+. And it kind of, he's just kind of rolling together, and he keeps talking about how great Suicide Squad is and the greatest movie he's ever worked on, which kind of makes you wonder what the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to feel like when he gets back over there. But he was already working on the Guardians of the Galaxy prior to doing Suicide Squad. What happened, of course, if you're not familiar, some very old, like decade-old jokes that he had made that were rather inappropriate, but he made them with the idea that they were inappropriate because that was the type of comedy he would do on social media back then. So he made these jokes, and then he's apologized for them long time ago. But they came back up, and Disney made the decision to let him go off of Guardians 3. They were still going to use his script, but they were going to let him go. And that, of course, had a backlash. None of the actors in Guardians really wanted to do it without him. And Disney gave him a little time and eventually hired him back. Once things kind of blowed over, they went blowed over. Once things blew. Hey, that's the word. Once things blew over. Going to learn some grammar here on the show. Once things blew over, he got hired back and now is working on that. But according to Walter Hamada over at Warner Brothers, he's not done over there either. Hamada said that Gunn will also be returning to their side of the street in the future. He said Gunn is always welcome back. Whatever he wants to do, he really has a vision, and he's a great partner with us. Whenever he wants to come back, we're ready for him. He'll be back. We have more stuff planned. Now, first thing when he says he'll be back, I immediately started thinking of the song from Hamilton. You'll be back, you will see. Don't you know that you belong to me? Yeah, that popped in my head, which really changed my day because that is one of those brain worms that'll stick in your head all day. I probably just gave it to you, so I apologize for that. Da 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 da. Can't sing too much because then it becomes a copyright thing. But anyway, so Gunn's going to be back, jumping back and forth between DC and Marvel, or will Guardians 3 be the end of it for him? Don't know, but it seems like the door is definitely open for him to hop back over to DC if he wants to go. Kind of interesting there. Speaking of Marvel, again, just moving on here, going to chug through these things. Got two more news stories for you. When you say Black Widow right now, most people are starting to think of that the conversation about the contract dispute between star Scarlett Johansson and Disney, with a lot of people are coming down on Johansson's side because they look at it and it's like you had this contract with her that stated X number of, X percentage of the box office, and that it would be a guaranteed theatrical release. And then they did this split release. And in doing so, $60 million was made opening weekend, 60 plus million through Disney Plus, but she doesn't get any of that. And those were definitely people that, might have gone to see it in the theater, but they took the convenience of staying home, skipping the crowded theater. And I was one of them. I did the premiere access. I paid the $30 and, and where the film did pretty well opening weekend, when you combined all the numbers, she loses money because of the Disney Plus deal, the premium access. So she's suing, and a lot of people are coming down on her side. Kevin Feige is angry how Disney handled it. Bob Iger, the former head of Disney, is mad about how they handled it. And a lot of bigwigs at Disney are upset. This all comes down to the new guy, Bob Kopech, I believe is his name, something like that, who is a money man. He's the guy that can turn out everything at a cheaper price, which isn't always good. Well, and backing this up now is the fact that Nielsen has released its numbers for July, and Black Widow came in at number 9. Now remember, for it to come in at number 9 on a streaming service that people had to pay an additional $30 for, the movie was viewed 541 million minutes. Okay? And the odds are that when they paid the $30, multiple people have watched the movie. I know for me, I watched it with my girlfriend. Her kids have watched it. I showed it to my nephew and his boyfriend and my mom. So I got 7 people watching it for $30. And when you look at it that way, that's only about $4 a person, maybe 5. Plus you don't have tax or anything else, and it's a value. But Scarlett doesn't get any of that. That just goes towards the number of subscribers on Disney Plus. That goes towards, the money going directly to Disney. And that just feeds the machine. It does, and that goes to the bonuses of the people making the decisions, which again is going to play into the contract dispute, because the people making the decision are going to make more money by doing it this other way that cuts some of Scarlett's money out and then feeds them. That seems like it's not going to go Disney's way, or at least it's not going to go the high ups Disney's way. And I don't think this is ever going to see a courtroom, because this doesn't look good for Disney. It hurts their brand. It goes against one of their biggest stars right now. And you're pissing off Kevin Feige and Bob Iger and all of these other people who are goodwill ambassadors for Disney. So I have a feeling this will quietly get taken care of, but it's also opened the Pandora's box, because you've got people like Russell Crowe and Emma Watson now suing because of stuff like this. Emma Stone. Emma Stone's Cruella movie opened on Disney Plus. How would that have done in the theater? How would that have done in only the theater? It's gotten great reviews, word of mouth. Maybe that would have been a huge payday for her. When Warner Brothers made the decision to put Wonder Woman out through the media, through the HBO Max, and didn't charge extra money, just like they're not charging extra money for Suicide Squad, they made a deal with Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot to offset the loss that they would have by going live on the streaming service. And I'm sure they're doing the same thing with James Gunn. So why Disney is trying to dance around this, it's not going to come down good for them. All right, let's hit this one last news story. Oh, you see that Disney will work it out, but you're surprised how many corporate execs are absolutely terrible at their jobs. Well, I got to tell you, it really comes down to what their job is. Bob Iger's job was to make Disney prominent, to grow Disney. This new guy, Bob, I want to say it's Kopech. I cannot remember his actual last name, but his job is to start saving money and to bring up the bottom line so that they're making more money. It's a different job. Bob Iger was to bring in these properties and bring in the creative people and make them kind of the center of creativity in the universe right now, which they kind of are. When you look at Star Wars and Marvel and all of these other properties, they've got Indiana Jones, and they've got, just down the line, they've got all the great property, or the majority of great properties right now. But, if his thing is to start cutting corners, and that's where he started, it's going to be an interesting fallout from that. All right, let's stick with Disney for the one last news story. And if you have been following The Bad Batch, tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on where you are, you're going to get the penultimate episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch. Now, this is the first of two-part season finale. And I say season finale instead of series finale because we found out today they're going to be back. Yep. The series that focuses on a group of experimental clones who have turned their back on the Empire are getting a second season. Now, according to Michael Paul, spelled with two L's, president of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, which I don't think actually plays in here, he says, fans have enthusiastically embraced the action and drama of Star Wars The Bad Batch, and we are excited to see that the Star Wars animated universe continues to expand on Disney. As the dedicated streaming home for the Star Wars franchise, we can't wait for the second season of this fan favorite animated series. Now, the second season is set to debut in 2022. And while the first of the two-part season finale will be released tonight, or early tomorrow, depending on your location, it kind of changes what you're thinking now going into it based on the knowledge that it's going to come back. And I'm kind of curious why they decided to announce that today when they could have done like Loki did, which is we heard rumors it was going to be renewed, but we didn't know, and then they showed it at the closing credits. They could have done it that way. That way you go into the finale thinking, okay, maybe things are going to wrap up. That maybe they're trying to or gauge expectations, control expectations, but it doesn't feel like the right move here. And part of it is the Bad Batch isn't really an event series that like Loki and WandaVision and even The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian has been an event series in a way, where you're desperately waiting for the next episode, and it's only going to be 6 to 8, and Book of Boba Fett's going to be an event series, that type of thing. Bad Batch has pretty much just been a continuation of the Clone Wars leading into Star Wars Rebels. It's just Dave Filoni continuing. I'm just making up words tonight. It's Dave Filoni continuing his animated adventures that he's been doing. That started with Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker, and carried through to Ezra Bridger, and he's crossing all his characters together. That's why we got Bo-Katan showing up on The Mandalorian and with all this other stuff going on. And it's just the Wick lexicon continuing blowed over. Thank you. Yeah, JD, can we get that started and we can just start adding entries every week? Yeah, so I have my biggest problem with the Bad Batch is it feels like expectations were not managed properly here. That it was presented like it was going to be an event series. It took the spot of the event series that were going on. And then it was going, and then what we got is just another TV series with a lot of filler issues or episodes. 16 episodes has been way too long for this series. There's some, if they definitely could have used some editing down. There's a handful of episodes, I believe they could have went episode 1, episode 4, and then 5. And they could have cut out a bunch of stuff that was totally unnecessary. There's a whole Hera storyline that involves the Rebel character that was 2 episodes, and I really don't know if it mattered to this season. They spent a lot of time, the team bonding with Omega. I don't know if it really was really necessary. So it'll be interesting to see how they wrap this up and where it is and what it is going forward. But I think Disney really needs to start cranking out some more Star Wars live action. I know they've got a lot in the works, but you see how Marvel, we've already got WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki. Now we're going to get an animated series in What If, which is starting to sound like it's going to be more and more important. And then we're going to get Hawkeye, and then we don't know about Miss Marvel, which may get pushed, may not. But we're getting all that along with the movies and stuff. And what have we gotten on Star Wars? We got season 2 of Mandalorian. We get the Bad Batch animated series. And we don't even know when Book of Boba Fett's coming. We have no schedule for anything. So they really should be managing their expectation and getting something out on the air as quickly as possible. All right. We are hitting the halfway point here, so let's do a quick break and we'll come back and we're going to talk about Marvel Legends and what the new videos that have gone up might mean for What If. Back in just a minute.
are watching Minute to Skim It on the Experience, so hello. All right, we've got lots of books to review for you guys today. And Hannah just basically showed up just the number ones and showed them to me, and I was like, oh, we have
just for the indies.
Just for the indies, yeah. I was like, we have got a lot to do.
Hey everybody, before we get on to the news, to talking about Marvel's What If and Legends, it turns out there's some breaking news, and we have producer Kyle here to tell us about it. Hey everybody, hello the internet. Hey, it turns out that Jake Batalon, the kid that plays Ned Leeds on the Spider-Man franchise, he's been tapped to play the lead in the upcoming sci-fi dramedy, Reginald the Vampire. Now it turns out it's based on the Johnny B. Truant book, the series Fat Vampire, which that kind of seems rude, doesn't it? Anyway, it's going to be coming from Harley Payton from Twin Peaks and Chucky, and it's gotten already a 10-episode straight-to-series order from Sci-Fi. So they must really love this kid and this series. So now I got to go back to resting. I had a testicle enlargement surgery, and I need to get back to laying down and putting some peas on my nuts. So I'll see you guys later. All right, so producer Kyle coming in to give us the late breaking news. We appreciate that. Now, oh, Kyle's going to kill me. You think Kyle's going to kill me, JD? I think Kyle's going to kill me. Yes. All right. Yesterday, Marvel released a little teaser trailer that kept talking about Marvel Legends. And I think, well, wait a minute. It's Wednesday. We're a week in front of a new Marvel series dropping. I wonder if they put some new Legends out there. Because that's what Marvel does. The week before a new series starts, they put out some new Marvel Legends. Those little 6, 7, 8 minute clips they do. They did it for WandaVision. They did a Vision and a Scarlet Witch one. They did it for Falcon and Winter Soldier, where we saw Falcon, we saw Winter Soldier, we saw Sharon Carter, and we saw Baron Zemo. And then we also got, for Loki, we saw Loki in the Cosmic Cube. Well, turns out if you go out to Disney Plus, you click on Marvel Legends, there is 3 new episodes. Now, the 3 episodes are Peggy Carter, the Avengers Initiative, and the Ravagers. Now, we know that Carter is the focal point of the first episode of the series. The Ravagers are a big part of episode 2 as we follow what happens to Yondu when he takes T'Challa instead of Peter Quill. Why the Avenger Initiative? Well, that could be because the series is building towards their own version of the Avengers, what they're calling the Guardians of the Multiverse, or it could tie into the 3rd episode of the series, which is supposed to be Loki coming to Earth to take over with the Chitauri, and there's no Avengers to stop him. So if that's the case, will we get more Legends episodes as What If goes on? Or are these the only big concept that the fans need to be reminded of, beforehand? I mean, that's pretty what Marvel Legends is. It's like a refresher in case, you haven't sat down and rewatched every movie in the last year. Now, we're going to take the rest of the episode here, and we're going to talk about Agent Carter. And the reason is because there's a good chance she has become a hugely prominent character in the MCU going forward, at least when it pertains to the multiverse. Now, the character, Margaret Elizabeth Peggy Carter, has been one of the backbones of the MCU since it started. She was a prominent agent for the Strategic Scientific Reserve, or the SSR, during World War II. The SSR, which also included Dr. Abraham Erskine, Howard Stark, Colonel Chester Phillips, yes, that was Tommy Lee Jones' character, they were the Allied response to the threat of Hydra and the start of the super soldier program called Project Rebirth. Now, Peggy started off as a code breaker working for Bletchley Park, but moved on over to Special Operations Executive after her brother's death. Now, we learned that, of course, from the TV series, but we got to be careful about that. Now, one of her missions for the she eventually moved over to the SSR, and one of her missions led her to rescue Dr. Erskine from Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull. And she worked with Erskine and Phillips to find the right recruit for the Project Rebirth, which, of course, turned out to be Steve Rogers. Now, after the procedure that turned Rogers into a super soldier and the death of Erskine, the SSR was tasked with taking the fight directly to Hydra. Now, though Rogers was originally assigned to help with the war bond effort, his U.S. show ended up in Europe at the same time that Peggy and the SSR were there going after Hydra. And Peggy encouraged him to be more than a dancing monkey. And that's a specific reference to the Captain America First Avenger movie. Now, this led, when he found out that a unit had been captured, including his childhood friend Bucky Barnes, Rogers single-handedly rescues the platoon and comes back, and it changes him. Phillips finally sees him as the potential super soldier that he could be, rather than just, the one guy that they got from the program that they were trying to build an army out of. Now, Peggy began to assist Captain America along with the rest of the SSR and the newly formed Howling Commandos. This was, of course, made up of the soldiers that he rescued, including Bucky, Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe. There's Falsworth. There's a bunch of them. Even the grandfather of the Morita, the principal of Spider-Man's school. His grandfather was one of the Howling Commandos, played by the same actor. Now, while they're doing this and they're going around and they're trying to decimate Hydra, Peggy and Steve fall in love. They kind of started that when she saw Steve before he was transformed, being the kind of dedicated hero, how he would sacrifice himself for others. And then when he became a hero, it just emphasized that in him, and she was drawn to that. Now, all of that ended, though. Basically, Cap was only active from 1943 to 1945. And it ends, of course, with him and the Red Skull in this giant battle in a bomb-filled plane that Steve ends up crashing into the ocean to stop from blowing up New York. And Red Skull is pulled through a cosmic doorway and ends up being a guardian of an Infinity Stone on a distant planet. Like you do. Now, with Hydra really losing with Red Skull, Arnim Zola kind of took them underground, started working them into things like the SSR. But it looked like they were gone. And the SSR was tasked with smaller projects, and Peggy's prominence in the agency started to diminish. She wasn't tied to Captain America anymore. And it was a very misogynistic time in the 40s and the 50s. So a female agent was not looked upon as they should be. They were treated with disrespect. And this all shifted, though, when the SSR became S.H.I.E.L.D., and Howard Stark kind of put together the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Peggy was one of it. She, according to the movies, she ended up marrying an unnamed Allied soldier that Cap had rescued at one point. She had 2 children and continued with S.H.I.E.L.D. through the Cold War, eventually becoming the agency's director by 1970. Now, she would stay in that role until the beginning of the 21st century, when she would finally retire. But she was later diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And when Steve Rogers was recovered from the ice, he found her and was able to visit her, but her memory was really fading at that time. So she'd have moments of knowing who he was and then moments of not. And which it was heartbreaking. And she, according to the history, she died in 2016, peacefully in her sleep at the age of 95. Now, we would later learn that she had a niece who had joined S.H.I.E.L.D. named Sharon Carter, who went on to assist Captain America, and after Civil War, she had to go on the run because of it. She popped up again in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we learned that she may have taken a big turn away from her aunt's more patriotic ideals. And, of course, we learn, she's doing bad things now. And, of course, we learned in Endgame that when returning from the Infinity Stones through time, Steve makes a detour and decides to live out his life with Peggy. Now, whether this caused a variance in the timeline or not, I don't know. The writers and the directors disagree, and Marvel's never come out and said, this is the official what happened, which would be nice. They really should make an official what happened. But now, that's the official canon history. And it's what they cover in the Marvel Legends episode on Disney+. But that isn't all the Peggy Carter stories we've got. There were 2 seasons of Agent Carter on ABC, along with she had 2 appearances on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, in flashbacks. On the S.H.I.E.L.D. one, we saw a story where Peggy led the Howling Commandos near the end of the war. They were cleaning up Hydra bases and taking on some of the artifacts that the Red Skull had collected. And they captured the last high-ranking Hydra officer, Werner Reinhardt, who would return to haunt S.H.I.E.L.D. later on in the modern day as Daniel Whitehall. Now, that was like a whole season of stories for them. It involved the Inhumans. But the problem is, then on the Agent Carter series, the 2 different storylines for the season. The first season introduced us to some cool characters like Daniel Souza, Dottie Underwood, Edwin Jarvis, and Peggy was trying to help Howard Stark clear his name. He'd gotten in trouble and looked like he was helping the enemy. Well, they went up against Leviathan, which was a Russian organization. We got to meet Johann Fenhoff, who has the ability to manipulate people's minds and is known in the comics better as Dr. Faustus. We even got an Arnim Zola cameo by Toby Jones at the end, where he's talking about working with Dr. Faustus. And of course, we know Arnim Zola continues on as a computer and stuff like that. Now, season 2 brought us the Iron Man villain, Whitney Frost, also known as Madame Mask, who is this super genius. It's based off of an actual actress, and I cannot think of her name right now, but who would do all these movies and also had a PhD in science and just was super brilliant. But that's what the character was based on. There was also the Roxxon Corporation popped up in here, and an infamous thing called the Zero Matter, which I believe is the same dark stuff that the Shroud uses, Dark Star uses, stuff like that, and Cloak from Cloak and Dagger. Now, the problem is that this series isn't believed to be canon anymore. There were a lot of ties to the MCU, especially with Toby Jones showing up as Zola. We had Dominic Cooper popping up as Howard Stark. Neil McDonough reprised his role as Dum Dum Dugan. And then we had a lot of concepts that made sense, like the Dottie Underwood character was actually from the Black Widow program. She was from the Red Room. So, and you had all this going on, and Marvel TV was saying everything's connected, but now it isn't, and we don't really know what is and what isn't canon. But by the fact that none of this showed up in the Legends, there's a good chance that none of it's canon. Also, there was a belief for a lot of fans that maybe the Daniel Sousa character was the Allied soldier that Cap had saved and went on to marry Sousa, and had the kids. But the problem with that is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the later season actually plucked Sousa out of time right before he was supposed to die, he became part of the team and ended up in a relationship with Daisy Johnson, a.k.a. Quake. And the last time we see either of them, they're on a ship in space going off to explore the galaxies. Yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got really weird near the end, and the more they got separated from the MCU, the crazier they got. But it also was some really entertaining television. The fact that they weren't restrained anymore really kind of opened things up for them. Now, looking at Marvel Legends and the fact it's not using any of the stuff from either Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter is good proof that neither of the ABC series are going to be working into the MCU at any time. Even though we've got this whole multiverse explosion, the only parts of the show in Legends, things that are shown in Legends come from Captain America the First Avenger, the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter, that's considered canon, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, and Avengers Endgame. Those are all the appearances that are part of the Marvel Legends that Peggy Carter has. Now, interestingly enough, if you look on the list of actors doing voices for What If, Bradley Whitford is on the list. And the only thing Bradley Whitford has done is the Marvel one-shot for Agent Carter. He played her boss in that episode, who was the misogynistic guy that wasn't actually giving her any decent work. Now, actress Hayley Atwell is said to not only be on board for season 1 of What If, but reports say that she'll be back for season 2, and that her character will be one of the characters that the series revisits. I believe either the director or the writer talked about how they needed to have a character that kind of had a connection to the Watcher, and they've decided on Captain Carter as that character. And of course, we've got a recent clip, I believe it was released earlier today, or maybe it was last night, that shows a scene with super soldier version of Captain Carter in the middle of a conflict with Hydra, alongside Dum Dum Dugan and Bucky Barnes. And they're all hunkered down in a, not a bunker, but, it's kind of like a bunker. Like a foxhole. And they call for air support, and the Hydra Stomper suit, which looks like a cross between, basically it looks like a 1940s version of the original Iron Man suit or Ironmonger suit. It comes in and starts destroying tanks and stuff. And of course, this suit was made by Howard Stark, but is piloted by an unmodified Steve Rogers. And we get that little moment of Peggy realizing it's Steve saying hey to Peggy, Bucky, Dum Dum Dugan's like, wait, she knows the guy in the Hydra Stomper? And Bucky's like, I think I know the guy in the Hydra Stomper. Now, voice-wise, we've got Neil McDonough is back as Dum Dum Dugan. Sebastian Stan is back as Bucky Barnes. Dominic Cooper is back doing Howard Stark. And, of course, Hayley Atwell is back as Captain Carter. The only voice who isn't back, at least not that they've said, is Chris Evans to voice Steve Rogers. And maybe they're going to go with a voice that sounds more like the skinny version. I don't know. I don't know why Chris Evans didn't come back. It seems like he would be the type that would. I don't know. But he's not coming back. Robert Downey Jr. didn't come back. And I want to say Tom Holland didn't. But we'll have to see how that all works out. Now, the thing about Captain Carter, there's an unsubstantiated rumor that some of the What If multiverse characters may be appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Captain Carter is believed to be one of them. Now, this is the first changed character that we're going to meet in the series, and she is displayed prominently on all the marketing material. I believe there's even toys coming out of her, stuff like that. It would make, and especially since they plan on using her in season 2, and she's going to be popping up in multiple episodes, from what I understand. It would make sense to have her appear in the live-action films. Haley Atwell seems to love doing the Marvel stuff. They're in good terms. But does she have the time? Did she have the time? She's currently attached to the Mission Impossible franchise, is going to be part of both the 7th and 8th films, which are both in production right now. Did she have time to film something for Doctor Strange before that started? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how this all works out. We won't know till March when Doctor Strange comes out. But it would, like I said, it would be interesting, especially since it's the multiverse of madness, that some of the enhanced characters we see end up in the Doctor Strange movie. Just makes sense. But that is what we know so far. What If starts in 1 week, and I will be doing show after show about that as well. Every indication is that it's going to be important in canon. Now, in what way is it canon? Well, if these characters exist in the multiverse and the multiverse exists, then these characters exist. If they find a way to close the multiverse and these characters disappear, that could still be canon. So just by saying that they're canon, that they do exist in the multiverse that the MCU is in now, is one thing, and that doesn't mean they're going to directly affect anything else. So just because there are reports and or the writer and the director are saying that this is definitely canon, it doesn't mean that it's going to have an overall effect on anything. Just keep that in mind. All right, that covers What If and all the news I had for today. Also, I want to thank producer Kyle for coming in with the Jake Batalon story about him joining the Reginald the Vampire. This is the last show of the week for me. I will be back for Pop Go the Writers on Sunday night. But I do want to point out that I have a new project out. It's part of the Kindle Vella series. It's a new 1970s spy thriller, Cold War spy thriller that just happens to have magic in it. And the synopsis says, the Cold War rages on as both sides try to control the proliferation of magic into the world. But when one of America's best seekers goes missing, it's up to Jonathan Blazak to figure out what powerful artifact has surfaced and either recover it or destroy it before the Soviet Union can weaponize it. His only lead is Symphony Scherzo, a young research assistant who doesn't know that magic is real or that she is now the central figure in a world-changing battle between nations. This is called the Embercrest Protocol. The first chapter is up. The new series will be released one chapter at a time. The first 3 chapters will be free. So if you're looking for just want to jump in on the first chapter, you can go to Amazon.com, put in the Embercrest Protocol. It'll come up. There's probably like a sponsored thing here, and then you'll see it. Click on it. You can click on the first chapter. It'll pop right up in your browser. If you're on your phone app, you can use the Kindle phone app. It doesn't currently work on the actual Kindles yet because it's still in beta. But check out the Embercrest Protocol. It's the first new thing I've written in a while. JD has popped that up into the chat. Thank you for that. And that is pretty much going to wrap up the show. Next week, we will be talking about What If. I'm working on some guests for next week. And hopefully by Tuesday night, producer Kyle will return for In Stores This Week because this last week's show was a total train wreck. You can see it on YouTube. If you want to see 2 hour and 45 minutes of total flailing, check it out. It's a wonderful episode. But all right, guys, thank you to JD for running the show. And let's go ahead and get out of here. Everyone have a good night, a great weekend. Come back tomorrow for everything on the experience, and I'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.